Hello, everybody. Welcome to Glacier Flower on Glacier Flower Episode 2. This is, if you don't know, this is like a mini podcast we're doing where we are reviewing our first three albums. And this week we are going to be reviewing our second album, Glacier Flower 20, released on June 12th, 2020.
That is it.
That's the one.
Yeah, so I guess um really the first thing we should get into here is just when how did this get started? How did this happen? Glacier Flower 20. And that question actually kind of starts in September, shortly after we released the first album.
Like 2 days after, just to put that out there.
Yeah, like very, very early September. And we were kind of in this state of trying to figure out what we wanted to do for the next album. And we had this one session and just nothing was coming together. Like literally everything was failing. So
The
so we kind of had this 3 month break, I'd say, where
Yeah,
we
about
I'd say yeah, about 3 months, where we just kind of took it off and focused on whatever else we needed to focus on, and then came back to Glacier Flower and kind of got the ball rolling, I guess.
kind of. I mean, it was like during that kind of break, we weren't like not working on the album. We were still kind of throwing ideas out there. I know it was going to be like a double album or something at
Yeah, yeah.
one point, like one ambient and then one kind of dance electronic album. Um, and then
And yeah.
we wanted to try out more vocals or um, like even drums and stuff like that, but we could not decide.
And I guess it was kind of through this indecision, in a sense, the album you got, or that we made, was born, because Glacier Flower 20 is very much an album where at this point we had embraced, we were kind of this ambient band. We had finally accepted that to some extent, but we also didn't, because we were very much experimenting with just every version of the form we could. That's why everything on here sounds so kind of not like each other. It was very much, we've got all these influences and we're going to pack them into one album, and that'll be the second album.
Much. Kind of glad we did it more of this. Like, I guess, I don't, I know I kind of mentioned we had too many ideas in the last one, but I'm glad we didn't try to put all those in one song. We kind of focused on one idea for a song. Like Hiroshi was
Yeah.
always like the Japanese sounding song, and Arcadia was kind of like the dark song. And
and uh
so,
and Grand Journey was something a little more conventional, a little more safe for us.
yeah,
uh
that
but
was
uh,
the first song we started working on. And I know we're always debating if it was going to be like the first song or the last song. And just kind of as we made the album, we also made that song.
yeah, it was kind of really the genesis of the whole project. So it's a song that I feel could put on either Glacier Flower 20 or or just Glacier Flower, the self-titled, because it's a transitionary song between the two phases of what we were doing. It's this midpoint of focus and a lack of focus, and really kind of consolidating that into one singular properly developed 10-minute song, which was really a big stepping up in ambition. And that's a bit of a thesis statement for this album too, stepping up in ambition and just making something that was very purposefully grander than what we had made before.
Yeah. Um, that is one thing that I immediately like about this album was just everything was almost a step up, like production, um, execution, I guess.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, we it was more. Oh, damn it, composition. There you go.
composition. Yeah.
Like we focused a lot more on that too. So like there weren't. It didn't seem like there were random notes or whatever. But yeah, this
Yeah.
album steps the quality way up from the last album.
And it's and that's kind of the backstory to it, that it was just this need to get better that motivated this album, and I think is why it really works, and why it's really interesting.
So first song on here, Hiroshi. One thing I want to mention that I forgot to bring up in the last episode was this kind of creating an atmosphere and how that started on a late spring because we were playing the song on the stereo and it was raining and we could hear that and we're like, hey, that'd be like a really cool atmosphere. Um, Something similar kind of happened for this album. We kind of heard like the birds in the wind outside and
Because yeah, we had my basement window open while making these songs, and it was kind of spring, summertime. So those noises were just all around us, and incorporating those into the music more than just us hearing them and those becoming a part of the song just felt like such a natural extension of the ambience on this album.
yeah, I agree. Cause that song doesn't feel like a song. It kind of feels more like a space. And it's just kind of like you get the water and the wind and the birds chirping and just like this calming synth in the strings. I
Yeah,
think I think it's a very I don't know how we mixed it as well as we did, considering it was on my phone.
it sounds really sublime listening back to
Yeah,
it.
it really
I'm very impressed with it for like me making it, which
right.
sounds very egotistical, but it is. But the other fun story about this song is just the process of recording it, because it wasn't just going out to my backyard and like filming the noises birds made or recording bird sounds and wind. It was There was actually physical locations we drove to get the water sample. We went to this storm drain that's uh, very close to where I live, and just captured some of the audio of the water crashing down into the lake that storm drain feeds into, to get a really full kind of rich water sound. And that's just a fun production detail I really like about it.
I like it too. And there was this I don't remember what it was called. It was some like Japanese toy or something that we were gonna go buy um to put in the background, but we we you had a clock in your house and it was ticking really loud. I'm like, you know what? That sounds close enough to that. And I recorded it and you can hear a clock too.
A shishi odoshi is evidently what it's called.
I mentioned how the composition was better and there's like a point in that song where it's like you can hear the clock tick, 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 and then like the drum comes in right on time. And it's just like little details like that just make this like 100% better than the first album.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just a swell opener, I think.
It is good. I like it. Yeah. Um, then to get into our next song, Bioluminescence and Cumulus. First double song, I guess an only double song.
Only double song to date.
I like honestly looking back, I think it's a weird we put these two songs together. Like it's one's like a weird electronic kind of spacey thing, and the other's like kind of popish,
A
kind
little
of.
poppy, a little dancey,
Yeah,
but yeah, once this, like, the first half, bioluminescence, is this much more kind of, yeah, atmospheric electronic track, which is just really, I like the sound of it. I think it sounds really rich and kind of dark, milky sounding. I think it's,
yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
I do like the song. Yeah, I just like the weird, crazy things we were able to manage to do.
Yeah. I like the buzz, really just sharp buzzing electronics here too.
Right. Yeah,
Uh
the sound is really cool.
the sound, but the sound of this part is cool. And it's, yeah, it's just such a baffling thing for why we ended up sandwiching these two together.
I think I don't know. I just feel like we wanted to make a double song for some reason,
Yeah.
and I don't think we really thought about what two songs should go together. Definitely
Yeah.
not those two.
I mean, I'm trying to think if there was anything I was listening to around the time that did that, and I just like stole that idea, or if there was something you were listening to that had some kind of thing like that.
I
But
think there was like it might have been with the slow rush because for some reason I know we had a phase where we were kind of like obsessed with two different sounding things in the same song. Because
oh
I
yeah.
know that slow rush does that a couple of times. And I think we did that on Grand Journey as well. Like there's a cut kind of like at the 6, 7 minute mark, and I think that also kind of came from that too.
That sounds very correct to me. That's, I bet that might be right to some degree. Uh, yeah, and then there's the way this song transitions from bioluminescence into cumulus, which is bizarre. I think
A little bit,
it's kind of just like a fade, as
yeah.
one kind of dips out, the other kind of dips
It dips
in.
in, yeah. I don't think that was the best we could do at the time for trying to
Yeah.
like transition songs. And then like the synth that does come in that starts Cumulus, I just it is I don't like it.
Yeah.
It just sounds I guess as I think it was Tyler on the
Yeah.
podcast.
On
He said it was
Jams and Tea.
cheesy. Yeah, Jams and Tea.
Yeah, and now that's the Jams and Tea theme song. So
Yep, I forgot about that.
how times change. Uh, but that's, I think it's an interesting idea, the kind of two-piece song that I just wish we had done in a different way.
I think so too. I mean, I'm not hating on either song because kind of at the end of this song, like where all the instruments come in and the bass, that kind of climax I think is pretty cool. Um, especially for what comes after that song.
Oh yeah, but that yeah, gosh, that the end part's really good. Uh, but I don't know, the rest of it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. And then I guess we have Arcadia, the third song here.
Yep. This this is a good song, I think. Like the quality of it, I think it's like too quiet or something. We didn't master it correctly, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool and kind of an early look on what we would start doing dark ambient later on.
And what's interesting is this was originally the kind of core pieces of this song were originally created by us as like a backing soundtrack to a short film I made, digital video production class I did in high school. And then we took these pieces and turned it into a Glacier Flower song.
Yeah, I remember that. We were just like we took all the pieces. There were like I don't know,
I think there were
five or
three,
six.
5 or 6. Yeah, there were
I don't
like
know.
five or six.
Yeah,
There were a few.
there were. I mean, I don't know how many, but we would just like go and just start placing them. That was really kind of actually towards the very beginning of that session, which was like in January or something, if not
Yeah.
late December. So
And I
realistically, we made this song in like 5 months, or this album. Sorry.
yeah, the album was really like once we got the ball rolling, it just picked up steam and went really quick. And that's
Yeah.
also how I mean 21's production went, but that's for next video. Uh
Bum, bum, bum.
but yeah, gosh, this song is really striking as like a very early attempt at dark ambient.
Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think the like arpeggiated synth kind of gives it this kind of anxious feel, in my
Hmm.
opinion, where it's just kind of like there's this timer and you're like running out of time, but it's just like you don't know when. And then like when it happens, like this song starts falling apart and making these weird noises.
Oh yeah, which is what it was named for actually. Those weird noise because I
Oh
remember,
yeah,
yeah, you came up with the name Arcadia because you thought it sounded like a video game spazzing out.
yeah,
So arcade, Arcadia.
yep.
And then we learned it was like some real place or something entirely coincidentally, but
And then like I've seen like 40 small towns called Arcadia. I'm like, okay, it wasn't as original as I thought.
yeah.
But oh, that's one thing that we okay. That's just one thing we didn't talk about. Were like the how we got the song names for the first two. I forgot about Hiroshi was from Hiroshi
Yoshimura,
Yoshimura,
a ambient musician who we both enjoyed his like really nature ambient stuff.
and so that's kind of the influence of that. Bioluminescence was, I think, I don't remember who, but one of us thought that song sounded like deep sea,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of whatever. And like,
And Cumulus was kind of named because it's like, oh well, we've got this deep sea. What's and the two parts of the song are opposites. What's the opposite of the deep sea? You know, the
the
sky,
sky, yeah.
and cumulus like a cumulus cloud. So it's clever. It's cute.
It, you're right. That is kind of cute.
I think it's like yeah, it's a funny naming convention, but I and it kind of further emphasizes why they're paired together. But it's yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, I guess back to Arcadia.
back
Well,
to
actually,
Arcadia.
I don't
Yeah,
have a lot more to say about
yeah.
it.
No, I definitely am with you that if it was just a little louder on the whole, it might be a little more effective.
Right.
But I think it's still a really I'm happy that it's solid. I think it sounds quite nice. It sounds
Yeah.
quite full, and just the way we put the song together is quite fun.
Yeah. This is probably top three on my favorite songs on this
Ever.
album. Probably. No, not really.
But yeah, no, this song I remember in particular, Arcadia, just my last edition being that I remember just how much fun it was because we were sitting, this was the first track kind of produced on my computer. And I remember just sitting there with the software with you, and we were kind of, and you were like, we were both like pointing at where things should go and then listening to it.
Yeah,
It was just a really fun track to produce.
that's just that was just that whole album as a whole. Like it was so much fun making this entire album. Like you mentioned, we drove somewhere else
Yeah.
to like record, and it was just I don't know. It was a really good time.
And I mean, with that driving, we actually just ended up before, like, no, after we got the sound for Glacier Flower, we we just explored around the area, like in addition to this, and
Oh
it,
yeah,
yeah.
that was really fun too. Oh boy.
And now I guess we get into honestly.
On yeah, this song was I guess I don't know, back in like around the time of our debut's release, I was working on this like lo-fi kind of album because I was really into it about that time. I have no idea why. And so I wanted to make an album and I asked August to make a a lo-fi song for it. And that was what he came up with.
I
So
Yeah, I just sent you this, and it didn't
I
have a title for the longest time.
no. And then it was kind of like I saw like different lo-fi songs or like softly or like whatever, something ending in ly, and I was just like, honestly, and
Yeah.
then that was the name.
And I remember distinctly I would always badger you that it shared a title with an American football song I love.
Mine does not have a question mark.
Yes. So that is the notable difference. That this honest that's how you separate them, tell them apart.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously the lo-fi album didn't come out because it was really bad. Um, so it just kind of hung out there for a while. I don't even think we really used it because on I really didn't like this song when he first sent it to me, and then like as we were producing this and I was starting to listen to it again, I think I don't know which one of us, but one of us was said it should be in the album, kind of like at towards the end of it,
Yeah.
end of production.
And it just kind of got put on there, and it ended up being one of the most interesting additions to the album.
Yeah, which I don't know. I this is probably my favorite song on here, either that or Hiroshi. I don't know, but this is a really good song.
And it's a song that's notably made up entirely of sampled material that is just beyond warped from what it started as. It, like, if I were to
Yeah,
show you the kind of pieces of music I sampled, you would just, no one would ever piece it together into honestly, aside from like me back when I made it.
right. I don't. Pretty good. It's kind of jazzy, kind of warped into like it's not even recognizable, but like, hey,
Yeah, there's some kind of like new jazz IDM in there.
yeah.
Like the beat is just so beguiling.
It is weird because like you it would go for a while and then this like drum that's in another tempo just or in another time signature just comes in, but like somehow it works with the beat and it's really weird.
It's like it's just such a weird song to listen to because I we've never made anything else like it
No.
is the thing.
And we probably won't make anything else like it again. I mean, I can't say, but
Yeah, but it's just a really weird anomaly, and I've grown to love it the more distance I have from making it.
yeah, yeah. I
But
think it was
it's
a good idea that we decided to put it on this album.
yeah. Uh, so that's this song. Kind of funny production story as with everything on here. And I guess the other funny part of this story is that by the time we put it on the album, we had been calling it Honestly for like 5 months at that point. So we just never bothered to change the title.
Yeah, we're like, do we want to name it something else? And we're like, it's honestly at this point, we're keeping it. That was yeah,
Yeah.
honestly.
And it's an interesting story. Yeah.
Starlight Somewhere. Um, this was a mainly a transition song from like the first four songs to A Grand Journey. Um, I don't know. It's kind of short. I do kind of wish we made it longer.
Yeah. Because I think the core melody of it is quite nice.
Yeah,
It just needed to be like longer than it was.
yeah, I agree. It is really short. Um, I don't
And
know.
I guess the best thing I can say about it is that it's the only song on here that's too short.
You're right.
Everything else is very well developed, unlike the first album, where like half of the songs are about right, half of them could use another couple minutes of runtime. Here, even though there are way less songs, they feel way more filled out and finished.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely worked on that a lot. Well, besides this song, um, I don't have a lot more to say about it. It is a good song, but I just wish it was longer.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, kind of a lesson learned moment on our parts where after this, we have yet to make another kind of transition song.
Right. I think like because a lot of like the early transition stuff was when we first started getting into Tame Impala, and with Currents, there's like two or three transition songs in that album, and I just feel like that may or may not be a reason we kind of were sticking to this idea of a transition song.
I mean, I have to imagine you're right because we both liked Currents a lot and still like Currents a lot. Uh, but the difference there was with Currents and Us is those songs had like full version, had like longer 5 minute versions, and we just didn't for us.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and that those transitions kind of help with the pacing of that album. While this, it just kind of it doesn't work
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, but that, yeah, I think that's all to say about Starlight Somewhere.
Oh, I think one more thing with like the title.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no.
there was a low. I'm gonna go back because I was into lo-fi, right? And there was a song I think called Midnight Somewhere. So I literally just stole that title. I'm gonna
Stole
be
it. Yeah,
completely
yeah,
honest with you.
yeah. And
But
but now it's Starlight Somewhere, which is admittedly a very Glacier Flower title.
yeah,
I
it's not
don't
a
know
bad
how such a
title.
thing can be achieved, but it feels right, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I guess a grand journey across the synth landscape.
Yeah. I guess the first thing let's talk about here, as opposed to our other discussions, is the name, which is the first thing about this song that existed.
I think I don't know if I'm right, but literally the phrase "a grand journey across the synth landscape" kick-started the album because I think you were describing the first album, and
Yeah, yeah.
I might have said that it was a that was a good song title, and we're like, "Yep, this is gonna be a song,"
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
started work on it.
And that and that was and that kind of one Discord message was really what made this album happen in the way it did, just making things with this greater scale. And it's so weird looking back on it, how this one Discord message got us to actually like get our asses in gear and make this album.
Right. I like the first half of this song as opposed to like the I don't know. I don't dislike the second half of it like I used to. I do think it's like kind of like really psychedelic and spacious and you're just kind of like you feel like you're floating. But like the beginning like build up, I think it's great. I and then it builds up to like this super like pretty chill melody for a couple minutes which honestly I kind of wish we could have
Yeah,
made that part longer.
I know the part you're talking about, and that part almost should have just been the whole song, because this was still something we were a little anxious about at the time of making this album, like just how much we could commit ourselves to a singular idea for a whole track, like a whole 10-minute runtime, and and not just like a broad idea, but like a very specific, like singular melody. And we didn't quite have yet the confidence to put that out there and try that. So it ended up just being like, yeah, a 3 minute, 4 minute section in the middle of this song, when I think it could have been its own like 7, 8 minute song.
Yeah, I agree. Um this is a good closer. I do kind of like how we put it at the end because it kind of feels like almost a collection of like everything a little bit in some way. Of like the previous five songs. And like probably the biggest critique I have about this album, and I you might agree, is it's too short. I feel like we should have done more.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we were to do this again today, I would put 4 more songs on it.
Yeah. I think our problem though was we were as we were making these songs, we were constructing the track list. So like we kind of knew like Hiroshi was first in like that sense because we were building the album as we were like working on the songs. And I just kind of feel like we placed everything where it was and we did not see it any other way, if that made
Yeah.
sense.
We almost limited how the track list was going to work too much, and it became too perfect for us that it just didn't work at all to like add anything or change anything, because it was already at that point so tight in our minds.
Right. Um, I mean, oh well, I guess.
Yeah. Oh well. But one thing I do think is kind of interesting is the live drumming on at the very end of this track.
Oh yeah,
The cymbal hits, which are pretty much unique to this song in the Glacier Flower catalog.
right. Yeah, because it was like we wanted these kind of hits with like the synth, and we're like, let's like make this part stand out more, and we just like recorded ourselves hitting cymbals, and just kind of recorded it lower in the mix.
Hmm. And yeah, not with sticks, but like just
Or
smacking
hands, yeah.
them.
Yeah. Um,
And so that's fun. But yeah, it's an interesting song for sure.
yeah, I agree. It is like it feels like our first album, but in a done in a much better way. Because yeah, just a lot better than a lot of the songs on the first album.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess one other thing we should address is the cover art for this album.
It's isn't it like two pictures like on top of each other?
Yeah, it's a picture of a forest and a picture of a lake that's
There you
kind
go.
of frozen over.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
it kind and then, the just Glacier Flower text on there.
that part right there is interesting though because I feel like this album the way it is, and I think you kind of mentioned this, but this is the really the album where we started figuring out like what we are as like before production we were trying to figure out where to go with our next album, and kind of at the end here we were kind of not arguing or anything, but we were trying to figure out what to name it and what to put on the cover because I know one of us wanted 2020, one of us wanted just the 20, and I remember at one point the album was going to be named apostrophe 20, but we were going to put Glacier Flower 2020 on the album, which I'm
Yeah,
so glad we didn't.
that would have been so
That would have been
autistic.
I well I don't remember, but it was just like one of us were like, you know what, we're naming it 20 when we're just putting Glacier Flower on the cover, which it in the text and like how it's stylized, I think works like perfectly.
Oh yeah. It's so much better than whatever else we were gonna try. And I mean, I'm kind of also glad we just went with the apostrophe 20 because it's a lot more unique than just Glacier Flower 2020.
Yeah, yeah, I do. In hindsight, I really love that we chose to do that.
Uh, and I think that might have been even been because on my part of inspiration because of the Noi album,
Oh
Noi
yeah,
75.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. But
um,
yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of the story of the album.
pretty much. Uh, yeah, I don't think there's anything else.
It was just really fun to, I guess the one thing, Cumulus was released individually as a single.
Honestly that is kind of a cool idea. I like that we did that. So it's like if you wanted to listen to Cumulus, you could just go and listen to that. You don't have to go to Bioluminescence and skip.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as a single, I think that was kind of bad. And I know we didn't, I think we didn't want to make Honestly a single because we were like, that's a good song. We want to save that for like the album.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Didn't want to let people in on too many of our secrets. Uh
yeah,
and that
yeah.
single cover is just, it's on my porch.
It's a pretty cool cover, I think.
It
It's
is,
weird, but it's cool. It fits the song.
it's like a rainy day and I'm on my porch and that's me on the cover with a camera covering my face.
Yep. Oh, I don't actually, I'm going to say that for next time. There is I'm gonna go back all the way to like the beginning of this album, like a couple days after the first album was released. We went and took some pictures at a nearby park, and I don't know, we took about what 8 or 10 pictures probably.
Yeah.
And one of those pictures is notable for a reason on our next album.
But we'll get more into that on 21.
Correct.
All right. But yeah, that's really what we have to say about Glacier Flower 20. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed.
Adios. See you next
Adios.
week.
Yep. See you next week for our third and final installment on Glacier Flower 21.